anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Their head coach has experience making deep playoff runs in Ime Udoka, and they have a point guard in Fred VanVleet that's 1A type. So they're not completely foreign to all of this. If you're leaning either way, take the over 5.5 games, or for a little bit more money, plus 1.5 games for the Houston Rockets. It will go at least 6.
Betting above the rim.
Oh, are you ready? It's a Sunday morning. It's the place to be right here on the SportsGrid Network. It's Tom Vecchio. It's Donnie Rightside. It's pro baseball today. And what do we do every Sunday? For the next 2 hours, we handicap every single game and hit the hot topics you need to know to get ready for not only what happened the past week, what's going to happen the next week, but more importantly, what is going to happen today. Happy Easter to everybody following along. We're ready to rock, Tom, aren't we?
We are. Happy Easter indeed. We've had a crazy few days of baseball. The Wrigley game a couple days ago, wild comeback from the Rays yesterday over the Yanks, and almost comeback by the Marlins over your Phillies. Runs are being scored. We got great pitching duels. Ohtani is expected back today after a couple days off due to the birth of a child. We have a ton to get to. Let's get into it.
No, we certainly do. And also, like the evolution of the season, which changes a lot late March into early April. We're waiting for the weather to change, and specifically in the Northeast, the weather is starting to change, which means, again, it affects the pitchers because, yes, the bats are going to get better and the ball is going to travel further. But I've never heard a pitcher throughout his life say, you know, it's awesome if I could pitch in Green Bay in the winter, it's such an advantage. No, everybody likes the warm weather on both sides of the plate, and also now taking a look at some of those games yesterday, which had extremely high scores. And we did start there with the Philadelphia Phillies-Marlins game, walking to an easy victory, checking late. What do you mean? It's 11-10 at this point, but a lot of damage being done. 33 hits in that game, 22 runs. That's a microcosm of when the weather starts to get warmer and you get questionable pitching in hitters' ballparks. We could get some of these runs, Tom.
We can get some of those runs, and it's also not just the runs. It's about finding the right markets. And, you know, credit to FanDuel for finally putting up the hit, run, RBI market. It's great to see, but it's important to note that those are not out yet. You know, we're only at 10 a.m. right now. Some of these lines don't come out until lineups are confirmed. So it may not be till 12, but again, this show ends at 12. The games don't start until 1:30, so we do have plenty of time. It's not like the normal market. Like, we're not going to we get the hits and RBIs and home runs. Those are posted first thing, you know, basically at midnight, essentially. But we don't get those markets until later, the HRR market, hit, run, RBI. And it's great to see. Obviously, we've been sending out some of those plays throughout the season. It's great to have those. And I will say the differential in markets that I've seen today is vast. We will get to that Dodgers-Rangers game for a prop that I specifically like for none other than Ohtani. We'll get there a little bit later.
Yeah, a lot of scoring early in the day yesterday. The nightcaps there. The Athletics 3-1 over the Brewers. You look at the Padres and the Astros. That game was a 3-2 game. The Braves pull one out against the Twins 4-3. And then the late night game where the Giants get another victory 14-7 over their in-state rival, the Los Angeles Angels. So it is a mixed bag. You just have to pick which side that you feel is going to hammer. But also, weather conditions do make a big deal. And today, I just want to preface this. Like Wrigley Field with the wind blowing out, like that crazy game we watched in front. Oh, look at that, man. Not a lot of scoring. And they absolutely exploded in the late parts of that game, almost like Coors Magic that we talk about so many times with the Colorado Rockies. But those games have been crazy. Today, there's a 7 being hung out there at Wrigley. Why? Because the wind's blowing in. But that doesn't always mean, Tom, you can't score runs even with the wind blowing in.
Also true. I should also note that, or we should also note that this game may not even be played. There's a lot of rain expected, but the early season weather and early season wind, more importantly, is absolutely vital to know. We're going to be turning to the Fenway game in a little bit, and that's a great hitter's ballpark to begin with. We have wind blowing out to right field. Sean Burke on the mound for the White Sox. Questionable pitcher. The lefties from the Red Sox are in a great spot today. We'll get there. And this is something to jump on because you could simply play the over. Like if you just played the over in that Wrigley game on Friday, it didn't look great for the first 6-7 innings, but then they exploded for 24 total runs. It does correlate to the player props, which we can look to because you could basically pick anyone and you'd be in a good spot. So keep an eye on the weather, keep an eye on the totals, and of course those props are really the spot to attack.
Exactly. By the way, if we can get that graphic back up from that series here with the Arizona Diamondbacks and Chicago Cubs, I just want to pinpoint one part of this. Do you see the top game Friday, which was crazy to start? Like, oh, look at this. Everybody thought we'd have a lot of runs, a lot of hits in that game, and it was stalled out. Bottom of the 7th, 5 runs. Top of the 8th, 10 runs. Bottom of the 8th, 6 runs. That's 21 runs in an inning and a half to absolutely explode that total, Tom.
I love that. I was on the over for that game, and like I said, it started off real slow for the first 7 or so innings, and then it comes flying out of nowhere for the runs. I will say it's important to know that we don't get great lines for these. Eugenio Suarez was plus 186 for a home run in that game. Those are terrible odds. Granted, you could take a shot on Corbin Carroll just because you like him for 2+ bases, 3+ bases. We're never going to be getting the best lines on those because obviously the books are adjusting based on the different factors. So sometimes we're going to get a 2+ total bases at minus 150. That's probably a pretty safe bet, but it is important to note that the lines are adjusting for this. The same thing as we see at Coors. When the Dodgers are at Coors, it's going to be Ohtani for 2+ total bases, probably close to minus 200. So it's a great spot to look for props. We just have to find the right ones because we ultimately don't get the best lines.
Exactly. And we always, the joke typically is, well, if it cashes, you don't worry about the juice. But I tell you, I was handicapping on money line, and I was looking at this game going, this is the best spot for hitter props today. But Corbin Carroll, that prop market that we love, Tom, the 1HRR market, he was minus 650 for one of those. Now, did he crush it? He absolutely did. But you had to put 4 players together to get close to plus money on the hits, runs, and RBI market, which I said, you know what, I'm going to pass. They all smashed it, don't get me wrong, and it was late where they sort of took control, but those are some of the markets you look at and say, oh, this looks really easy. The books understand. If it looks easy, they're going to adjust accordingly, is what Tom was explaining here. So that is always a PSA, and certainly we'll go over each and every game today and find those markets you want to find out. But some of the hot topics for the week, the Atlanta Braves really can't get out of their own way at the plate. Now, yesterday, fine, look at that, 12 hits, 4 runs, a victory over the Twins to improve to 7-13 in the season. But more importantly, it's the players that we're expected to get back. We're waiting on Ronald Acuna. When he gets back in the lineup and healthy, that's a game changer. But Spencer Strider comes back this week and made his debut. And if you take a look at the statistics, 5 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 5 Ks, and 1 walk. They end up losing that game, which, again, isn't the biggest story. But Strider is back, the strikeouts were returned, and now finally Atlanta has their ace back on the mound.
Yeah, this is what we talked about coming into the season on the preview show, where we were saying they kind of have to tread water, essentially, until Strider gets back and until Acuna gets back. And, we were expecting them to be a little bit better than they were, at least in terms of record-wise, and they have a lot of catching up to do. So we need to see Strider return to that ace level because their pitching still needs help. And I think once we get Acuna back, that's going to be the difference maker. And that's really going to tell us the story for the rest of the season because making up even just 7-8 games just to get back to 500 in one of the tougher divisions. And as we have talked about, the NL West is absolutely amazing. So you have the Mets and the Phillies ahead of them. Then you have the NL West with 4 teams that can make the playoffs. The Braves need to get things going quickly. They need to break off 5-6 game win streaks just to get back into the playoff race, not just talking about, they'll win the division, just the playoff race to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. It used to be like, okay, we didn't win the division, but we're short a wild card spot. You might be chewing up a lot of those wild card spots in the West alone, as the Padres have 15 wins, as well as the Dodgers with 15 wins, the Giants with 14 wins, and the Diamondbacks are with 12 wins. And then there are those Colorado Rockies floundering in last place. But also aces were wild this weekend as well. In Arlington, Yamamoto on the mound there for the Dodgers, taking on DeGrom. Both of those pitchers, Tom, go 7 innings pitched in that game. No earned runs for Yamamoto, 1 for DeGrom, 10 Ks for Yamamoto, 7 for Jacob DeGrom. two aces. And by the way, if DeGrom can just find some of that feeling he had a couple years ago with the Mets, that's really going to help the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, I talked about this yesterday with Craig Mish on Fantasy Sports Today. And, this is encouraging from both sides. One, Yamamoto goes 7, which is something that we generally don't always see from Dodgers pitchers. Like, we know that Dave Roberts kind of likes to pull them a little bit early, but to see him go 7, very encouraging. And then DeGrom, I think this is far more encouraging for the Rangers, a team that you and I both like to win the division, whatever it might be, World Series potential from them. Getting DeGrom out there, the strikeouts, I'm okay with the strikeouts being a little bit lower. And they've talked about it on broadcast that he's not throwing that 96, 97. If he throws to that 93, 94 range, save that arm just a little bit. Be a little bit safer, because if they can have him have the innings extended overall in the season, that's what puts them in the best spot. So to see 7-7 from him, 7 strikeouts, 7 innings is absolutely fantastic. They need help. Leiter's still on the IL and on his way back, but great stuff from them overall.
No, it certainly is. You take a look at the Texas Rangers on the season, 13-8 overall, but everybody in the West out in the AL has double-digit wins. 13 by the Rangers, 11 by the Mariners, 10 by the Astros, 10 by the Angels, and 10 by the Athletics. There's certainly a fun brand of baseball, and everybody is bunched up at this time of the year outside of just a few teams that we like to joke about, like the White Sox and the Rockies. We're going to have fun today, people. We're handicapping every single game on the card. Come on back. SportsGrid Network, and it's Pro Baseball Today.
Here's a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Lost Pages. Let's get lucky.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They're so close that we're barely going to be getting any value on the plus side of things. I think there's a little bit of value on the Blue Jays today, but it's an awesome division. Like, I don't want to see teams running away and be up by 12 games in first place. We want to see teams constantly battling for first place.
They hit a team total. I love that. So as many times as we get bad beats, you do get the same amount of good beats, typically in your direction, if you wait long enough.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of
15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Who says the handicapping stops here? It doesn't stop here. It's 2 hours. It's straightforward here. It's a Sunday. It's Easter Sunday, and we got to get you guys prepared on a holiday. You might eat some ham out there. You might be having some cannolis, which I'm going to certainly have a few of those today here in the Northeast. Or you might be saying, you know what? I want ham, cannolis, and I want food. I want candy, and also, Tom, I want winners. That's what we're going to provide today, right?
Winners, candy.
Yeah.
Easter egg hunts, chocolate, whatever it might be. You have it all here later in the day. We're in a great spot because we are, as we talked about coming into the start of the season, we talked about, like, we want to hit that stride. No pun intended, was we were talking about Strider last time, but we want to hit that stride in terms of we have enough sample size from the pitchers, the hitters this year. We don't need to necessarily look at spring training. We don't need to look back at last year. We have a decent sample size, and we have enough innings pitched. We have enough batters faced, whatever it might be, to give us lefties, righties, look at the splits, home, away, whatever it might be. And now we're in a really good spot because the props have kind of settled into their place. The weather's starting to get better. It's a great time to be a baseball fan. It really is, especially as we hit May.
Exactly. The spot to be, as we always like to say right here on the Sports Grid Network, comfortable on Sundays, getting you ready, giving those angles out. But also keep in mind, Tom's around the network a lot during the week, so am I as well. But also, we are a social media-centric show, which means reach out to us, man. I love to see the tickets that the people post here. And I love to see that the camaraderie back saying, you know what, it's a marketplace that we're trying to exploit for the good of the people out here, and it's fun. Tom's always on Twitter posting tickets. Same thing with me. Any options you have, hey, Donnie, hey, Tom, I really like this today. What do you think? We love to do that on social media, so keep us in the fold with that. And having said that, let's start to cap some of these games here. 1:35 start today, 9:19, 9:20 on the rotation. That's Cleveland and it's Pittsburgh. It's going to be Allen, the lefty, on the mound here for the Guardians, and Keller, the righty, for the Pittsburgh Pirates. This line opened up right around that minus 120 phase, and it still seems to look at 116s, 122s, 115s across the board with a total of 8. And by the way, Tom, the Pittsburgh Pirates, man, an anomaly to me at times. It just feels like if I could just push play on O'Neal Cruz and leave everybody else off the card, it seems to work pretty well for me.
It really does. At times, he's their best hitter. When it comes to this pitching matchup specifically, Logan Allen, Mitch Keller, both of these pitchers are remarkably similar, where they're not high strikeout pitchers. Sometimes they can struggle with walks. They're never giving up a ton of home runs. If you look at the Mitch Keller game log, I hate to cherry pick one single game log because it's baseball, anything can happen. But what I often say about these pitchers, they're going to get BABIP to death, which is batting average of balls in play. It's going to be single, double walk, single, double walk. Mitch Keller gave up 7 earned runs versus the Yankees, and he didn't give up 1 home run versus the best home run hitting team in the league. 7 runs allowed, not 1 home run. Why? Because it's just a single here, a walk, a single, a walk, a double. So these are pitchers that can get exploited if you have teams that don't strike out like the Guardians and can put the ball in play like the Guardians. So I think the under is ultimately the play because we could see this game end, let's call it 4-3, 4-2, probably on the side of the Guardians just because the Pirates struggle on offense. But these pitchers don't give up necessarily a ton of power. They can struggle maybe versus lefties, righties, hard contact fly balls. But I think it's about the under. And if you want to have some interest in Stephen Kwan or J-Ram, it's probably just the easiest spot to look.
I always look at that. Like sometimes you have that like comfortability. You know how you open up a certain sports book, you open up a certain sports page, you turn on a certain channel. Whenever I go to the Guardians, it's always those 3 guys right in the middle of that lineup that say, you know what, always a favorite stack for me. If we look at the pitchers today, because now we're finally starting to get some guys around 20 plus innings, you can start to factor it in. The reason I bring up Logan Allen today, if we have 30 pitchers on the card that I have rated on XFIP numbers, Logan Allen is 26. And here's always the dichotomy as we take a look at the analytical numbers and what your eyes are telling you in the old school numbers in the ERA. 15 2/3 innings pitched, which isn't a lot. A 2.30 ERA for Logan Allen, which is really good, Tom. But then you see the 5.01 xFIP number. And most people ask, like, well, why would his ERA, and that's actually what he's giving up, be different from an analytical number? Well, you're just starting to take a look at saying, you know what? He probably should have got hit a little bit harder. He walks too many guys, too many fly ball rates here, not enough strikeouts here, which means if the ball's in play, usually bad things happen. So for me, if I'm looking for a stack on the Guardians today, again, I just reach right back and go Kwan, J-Ram, and Santana and live with that. And by the way, some of my favorite things there too is Kwan is not a switch hitter. He's very good against lefties and righties. But the fact that you have 2 guys in the lineup that are switch hitters, because how many times, Tom, do you have an account you like, or let's just say a player you like early in the game? Boy, he's a left-handed batter. He's great against right-handed pitching. The final 2 at-bats in the game are against like a side-winding lefty, which wipes that out. It's so nice to have switch hitters at times in that lineup.
It really is. And when we talk about, we like a player to split versus a given pitcher, we really have to account for it being like 2.5 at-bats versus that handedness of pitcher.
Yes.
Like he's a lefty, he's going up against a righty. We're generally going to get 2.5 or so at-bats. Some people think it's even less at 2.3, whatever it might be. But then the bullpen comes into play. And, talking about the xFIP differential and ERA differential, like we can use essentially xFIP as like an indicator. And it can be positive and negative. Like a player's xFIP is at 2, which would be insane. And his ERA is up at 5. Well, he's actually a better pitcher than his ERA indicates.
Correct.
And vice versa. So we use the xFIP number, as Donnie said, is like the analytical number compared to what we're seeing from ERA. And that is very important because we know that players are due for a regression both positively and negatively. And it can really put us in a good spot to be essentially a start ahead. Like, oh, this pitcher is actually much worse than he's actually showing. Let's jump on it now.
Exactly. And Tom brings up weighted runs created plus there as those markets which you try to gauge, like the at-bats that these guys are giving you and putting you in positive situations. Use those to your advantage. But that's one of the games that we take a look at Cleveland-Pittsburgh, where you look at the pitchers themselves and say, okay, somebody might be due to get hit around a little bit. Maybe we'll find that out. But it is tough if you're just looking for a total to the over that includes the Pittsburgh Pirates. Those sometimes are tough going, no doubt about it. Let's set the table for the next game. Another 135 start. That's going to be Minnesota and Atlanta, rotational number 921, 922. Ryan versus Holmes on the mound. Another game that opened up right around a pick'em, Tom. Depending on where you're shopping, it's about a minus 120 to plus 100 split still as the Braves as a favorite. But the total opened up at 8, which is still at 8s in a lot of places. I'm looking at FanDuel right now that actually has a 7.5 today. Ryan and Holmes down there from Minnesota and Atlanta.
Yeah, I really like the Twins today, and Joe Ryan's an awesome pitcher. He's been this pitcher for a while, 27% strikeout rate this year. He has a 2.4% walk rate. He does not allow hitters on base for free, which is something that I absolutely love. The Braves, shocking. They're continuing to struggle. A 26.4% strikeout rate versus right-handed pitching. That's the second worst in the league. The Twins bullpen has kind of been beat up the past few days. They do have an off day tomorrow, then they're going to play the White Sox. But I really do like Ryan to be out there. We'll get into the pitching props and the strikeouts later, but I think that's the spot to go. On the other side, Holmes, we can get into it maybe after the break as we're coming up against one now, but he's kind of just a middle-of-the-road pitcher for me ultimately. But the Twins are struggling on offense.
No, I don't like anything about this game. And also, sometimes it's funny, too. Like Buxton, the previous 2 games, 2 for 4, 2 for 5, rolled with him on the 18th, which was Friday, to get a base knock, 0 for 4. What does he do yesterday, Tom, when I'm so angry at him? 3 for 4 at the plate with a triple and an RBI. Stop the madness. We'll be right back. It's Pro Baseball Today.
Here's a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Lost Pages. Let's get lucky.
The 2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They're so close that we're barely going to be getting any value on the plus side of things. I think there's a little bit of value on the Blue Jays today, but it's an awesome division. Like, I don't want to see teams running away and be up by 12 games in first place. We want to see teams constantly battling for first place.
They hit a team total. I love that. So as many times as we get bad beats, you do get the same amount of good beats typically in your direction if you wait long enough.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of thoughts.
18.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Oh, we got picks, and more picks. It's Pro Baseball Today. It's Tom Vecchio. It's Donnie Right Side, Sirius XM Channel 159 SportsGrid Network. It's an Easter today as we're ready to celebrate the holiday with some food, fun, and also some winnings here. By the way, Tom, before we get out of that Minnesota-Atlanta game, anything that we should look forward to later in the show that you got your eye on in this one?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about Joe Ryan and his strikeout prop. I saw some wide range of numbers in terms of, prices across the industry. So of course, always shop for the best lines available, but Ryan's in a good spot today. I mentioned their bullpen's been, a little bit taxed 2 days. So Joe Ryan, keep an eye on him and maybe get ahead of the lines now before we get to that segment a little bit later.
There you go. Information ready to roll. Let's keep it moving here. City of Brotherly Love today, 1:35 start, 9:01, 9:02 on the rotation. The Marlins taking on the Phillies, starting pitching matchup. Gillespie, the right-hander on the mound for the Marlins, and the lefty, Jesus Luzardo. Very familiar with that Miami lineup there. This line opened up, Tom, minus 275. Ballooning as high as minus 340 at DraftKings this morning. And a total, though, that opened up at 8.5 at FanDuel. That's dropped to 8, and it's primarily 8s across the board. The Phillies, a massive favorite today over the Marlins, looking for the sweep.
Yeah, a little bit of wind blowing in at Philly. Gillespie only has 19 innings pitched this year. He had 8 innings pitched last year, so we're dealing with like a super small sample size. But, however, this year, over 300 ISO allowed to left-handed hitters, fly ball rate over 44% versus both lefties and righties, hard contact rate over 40% versus lefties. So the power for left-handed Phillies hitters is paramount today and could really be there despite a little bit of wind blowing in. It's a great hitter's park. Luzardo, as you said, former Marlin, they traded him to the offseason to the Phillies. He's been great to start the season. 31% strikeout rate, 7% walk rate. He has a 1.99 xFIP, which is absolutely unbelievable, despite the fact that the Marlins aren't a good offense overall. They still only actually have a 21% strikeout rate versus lefties, which is the 7th lowest in the league. So they put the ball in play. They're not as swing and miss as they once were or as were in years past, but Luzardo's been awesome. He's against his former team, and the lefty power hitters from the Phillies, buckle up.
There you go.
Could be a big day.
There you go. There you go. Let's see what happens here. Again, 69 degrees in Philadelphia. Wind is slightly blowing in, which, again, isn't going to harm either way. Might rob a home run if you hit it out to the warning track. But other than that, we should be fine. Luzardo, as we were talking about, 91 batters faced this season, an ISO against 107, and a weighted on base percentage of 267. And good luck if you are a left-handed batter. Those 21 at-bats, a 48% strikeout rate today. Now, you probably would only have minimum left-handed batters, but he's been that good lefty on lefty. And as Tom was talking about with the Philadelphia batters, there's some options I really like today. And again, in that lineup, Stott, Turner, Harper, Schwarber, Castellanos, and Kepler should do some damage. But in the meantime, I have my eyes focused there on Stott at the top, Harper, and also Schwarber. The key being all left-handed batters here, because you take a look at 43 at-bats this year for Connor Gillespie against lefties, a 325 ISO and a 340 weighted on-base percentage. Last year, we don't have a really big track record, only 19 lefties faced, so you're going more on this year. And also, sometimes you like those headwaters that the Phillies are starting to get yesterday. A lot of runs scored here. Comfortable. They'll keep in the ballpark, starting to turn up as opposed to 45 and 55 degrees. Now we're in the 70s, and yesterday in the 80s. As we said, 30-plus hits yesterday in the ball yard and over 20-plus runs scored. We'll see what happens there. Let's keep it moving down the list. It's Cincinnati and Baltimore. Another game close to Philadelphia, so still on the East Coast. 9:17, 9:18 on the rotation. A 1:35 start. The left-hander will be on the mound today. Suter for the Reds going up against the veteran Charlie Morton. This line opened up overnight at FanDuel around a minus 162 price. FanDuel's at minus 196, but also DraftKings at minus 205. A heavy favorite, Tom, for the Baltimore Orioles today.
Yeah, Suter was just announced this morning as the starter. I think he's a super average pitcher overall. He's been the same way over the course of his career when he was with the Brewers. It really doesn't matter. He's not a high strikeout rate pitcher. The Orioles have a good offense. It's been a little bit inconsistent to start the year. There's no doubt about it, but I do think we're going to see some runs in this game, really from both sides. Charlie Morton on the other side, been off to a little bit of a rough start. He's got a 642 xFIP versus lefties, 1.54 home runs per 9 allowed. He has a 51% fly ball rate, 37% hard contact rate. He does, and we do see the Reds strike out a decent amount. However, despite all this, Elly De La Cruz already tweeted out a prop about him over the 1.5 run hit RBI market. It's absolutely fantastic, getting him minus 105. Morton's been struggling. Elly De La Cruz is awesome. Elly De La Cruz could legitimately have no hits and still cash this with a sac fly. He's going to get on base and then steal second before we know he'll be back at home. Absolutely fantastic market to attack.
Yeah, you're taking a look, too, because the stack also makes sense because we don't really love the Reds lineup per se, but the middle of the lineup, McClain, De La Cruz, and Hayes look like they have the ISO power numbers and weighted on base percentages match up very well against Morton, who has struggled against lefty and righty batters alike this season. Baltimore, completely different handicap from a right-handed pitcher to a left-handed pitcher. The reason why is, if we're looking at Suter being on the mound with some quick updates, struggles with righties, but they don't hit lefties all that well as we take a look. We'll be back. More information next right here on The Grid.
Here's a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They're so close that we're barely going to be getting any value on the plus side of things. I think there's a little bit of value on the Blue Jays today, but it's an awesome division. Like, I don't want to see teams running away and be up by 12 games in first place. We want to see teams constantly battling for first place.
They hit a team total. I love that. So as many times as we get bad beats, you do get the same amount of good beats, typically in your direction, if you wait long enough.
Pro Baseball today, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rhythm. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of thoughts.
15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Pro Baseball today, Donnie right side, Tom Vecchio, the place to be every Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern here, right here on the SportsGrid Network. 2 hours of handicapping to get you set for an exciting, action-packed Major League Baseball day. And by the way, things do change. Lineups do come out as we're live on the air when we're handicapping what we anticipate those lineups to be, which again is a case in point. Like, I have a play that's going to be given out on the show a little bit later with the Baltimore Orioles, who I really like their team total. That was based on a right-handed pitcher, not a lefty that's coming in. Now, adjustments can be made. You look at the new starting lineups as they come in, but that's the fun part about it, Tom. Sometimes handicapping on the fly with what we see and getting that real-time information, that's important to us.
Absolutely important. And this is one note that we've kind of touched on as the year has gone on. You know, there are players that I like early in the morning and the lineups are come out and that player may not be in the lineup. One note that I want to make is different books have different, fine print policies saying a player must be in the starting lineup for the bet to be, active. Sometimes they will say that a player needs to have one plate appearance. So if you bet on a player and he's not in the starting lineup, but he makes a pinch hit appearance, that bet will still be active, right? Yeah. So he only gets the one at bat you were expecting 4 at bats, but it's only the one. So keep that in mind. Some people want to wait until the lineups are officially confirmed. And listen, worst case scenario, just void whatever we move on to tomorrow. But White Sox, Red Sox, I'm ready to go if you are.
Yep, absolutely. Let's get to it here. And also understand this, too. By the time this show gets done, 12 p.m. Eastern, we usually have about an hour layover time. All those lineups will be out. You'll be ready to fire and make those educated decisions as we move along. So let's get to it. Battle of the Sox here. 9:09, 9:10 on the rotation. A 1:35 start. That's the Chicago White Sox taking on the Boston Red Sox. Burke on the mound, the right-handed pitcher for the White Sox, taking on Houck, the right-handed pitcher for the Boston Red Sox. This line opened up as a massive favorite overnight, around minus 250. Those are gone. We're as high as minus 300 today for the Red Sox, and a total that opened up around 9, Tom, 9.5. And I agree with that line movement. I think we get runs today in Boston.
We are getting runs, and it's probably going to be runs on both sides. Like, I think the line's a little bit too high. I think the line suggesting that you're just banking on the Red Sox offense rather than Tanner Houck as a pitcher. We got some wind blowing left to right, out to right a little bit, which does put things in the favor of lefties. Burke, he's allowing over a 240 ISO power number to both lefties and righties. He has a low strikeout rate, 16% walk rate versus lefties, specifically a 44% fly ball rate and 37% hard contact rate. Tanner Houck's coming off a complete disaster start where he gave up 10 runs to the Rays earlier in the week. The question becomes is that a sign of things to come for Houck, or is it just a baseball start where bad things can happen? And can he right the ship versus what is objectively maybe the worst team in the league alongside the Rockies? So it was a terrible start. 10, 11 runs allowed, but now he has the easiest matchup you could possibly want to get things back on track. I prefer the hitters. I prefer the hitters from Boston. Not too many from the White Sox I'd look to. Robert, Benintendi, Vaughn would probably be it.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I look at this lineup today, and let's just say the anticipated lineup for the Sox. First 6 guys in that lineup, all elevated weighted on base percentages. And Sean Burke, as I take a look at 30 pitchers that have capped today, number 1 on the card is Kyle Freeland, which is interesting with his xFIP number being under 3. The worst on the card, it's Sean Burke. 16 and 2/3 innings pitched, 7.56 ERA, but a 5.71 xFIP number. So equally as bad as that ERA here. And the middle of that lineup should do damage. Circled players for me would be Bregman, Abreu, and Campbell in that lineup. But also, secretly, Tom, on the opposite side, if I'm saying like Tanner Houck can be hit and be hit by lefties this season, Andrew Benintendi in the middle of that lineup, 35 at-bats, a 281 ISO power number, and a 417 weighted on base percentage, and a low K rate. Keep in mind, we'll have some action on Andrew Benintendi a little bit later in the show. But we do talk about pitchers so early in the season, and maybe only 15 innings to maybe 25 innings, depending on what we're getting at here. Take a look at this, the AL Cy Young Award race here. If we focus on the American League, it's Garrett Crochet at a plus 155 price. It's Skubal at plus 340, getting back into form that we know and love, and he dominates, and we'll talk about him in just a bit. Logan Gilbert, Cole Reagans, Hunter Brown, Max Fried, Shane Baz, everybody working themselves in, includes the vet Jacob deGrom with that good start, 36-1 now in that race.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be an awesome race, and a lot of people didn't expect Max Fried to be there. I do think there's a bit of value on Max Fried, and it comes down to a lot of things. I don't think he'll have as many strikeouts as Garrett Crochet. He won't have as many strikeouts as Skubal. But if the Yankees were to win the division, there's a narrative to be built that, Fried did this, Fried led them there without Garrett Cole. Like, there's some narrative that the media could build to put him there. Again, I'm not going to say he will have as many strikeouts or the better underlying vectors compared to Skubal, who we know is amazing. But if you're looking for a little bit of a longer shot, I do think it's a reasonable spot to look at least this early in the season.
Yeah, no, it's a fun market. It'll shape up, and as you go, each and every pitcher, because they're not batters here. They're getting 4 and 5 and 6 at-bats a day. A pitcher's going to get 1, maybe 2 starts a week if he's lucky. A really good start going to propel him in the odds market. A really bad start going to propel him the opposite direction in that odds market here. So we'll keep tabs on that all spring and summer long right here on Pro Baseball today. Let's get back to the capping. 9-11, 9-12 on the rotation. A 1:37 start. It's Seattle and it's Toronto from Toronto. Castillo versus the lefty Lucas on the mound. This line opened up as a favorite towards Seattle, slightly at about a minus 120 price. Most outlets, Tom, still around that minus 20 favorite here for Seattle. If we look at the Toronto-Seattle total, 8.5s overnight, still sitting at 8.5s today. Castillo, Lucas, what are we looking at today from your perspective?
I think we're looking at the under. This does really not shape up to be an exciting match. I know yesterday's match was super exciting, going to extras, a grand slam from Rowdy Tellez. It really puts the game over the total, but I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of runs. I would lean with the Blue Jays. Luis Castillo, I got to say, I don't think he's the pitcher that he once was. 19% strikeout rate, 10% walk rate. Compared to the last 2 seasons, a 24% strikeout rate, 27% strikeout rate, 6.5% walk rate, 7% walk rate. He is really struggling. Also, the barrel rate at 12.4% allowed this year is the highest of his career compared to 8.5 and 9.4 of the past 2 seasons. I don't think we're going to see a really good performance. This is not saying we're going to see a ton of runs, because we've talked about it before. The bottom half of the Blue Jays lineup is pretty mediocre to bad. On the other side, Easton Lucas, a young pitcher. Mariners have a 29% strikeout rate versus lefties. That's the 4th highest in the league. They also have an 82 WRC plus, which is the 13th lowest in the league. So they have a bad offense. We've talked about this for years with Seattle. They do not score. I just don't see the runs here. I think the Blue Jays have the side because I'm not buying into Castillo. And if we can get the Blue Jays at a decent, the Mariners are road favorites. I don't want that. Give me the Blue Jays and probably the under.
Yeah, I'll tell you what's interesting, too, is you take a look at the 2 pitchers, right? Castillo coming into this game, 21 1/3 innings pitched here, and then you see his ERA 4.22, higher xFIP of 4.65, but also takes a team that's going to be able to exploit that. You look at the ISO power numbers on the season. It's right-handed pitching for Toronto. It's low. Outside of Andres Jimenez at 208, everybody's in that 0 to 100 range, which isn't good. And the reason why we talk about the isolated power, that's what the damage are doing at the plate. We all know it's a lot harder to have 3 singles in an inning to get a run. You need a walk and a double in the gap, puts a guy on second base and a runner at the plate. If we also switch it over to Seattle side, here's the interesting part. Lucas didn't have a lot of statistics last year as a lefty, but got beat around a little bit by lefties last year. You look at this year, the ISOs and the weighted on base percentage is higher to right-handed batters, as it should be, through 44 of those batters. The first 4 guys in the lineup today for Seattle, high ISO power numbers, which includes Dylan Moore in that leadoff spot, or anticipated to be in the leadoff spot, a 632 ISO and a 640 weighted on base percentage through 23 at-bats going up against left-handed pitching, which is interesting. And again, the big dumper that we talk about so many times, Cal Raleigh, had an issue yesterday with Jose Barrios, and he said, you know what, I'll show you in the next inning, and gets a double down the line, driving in a couple runs there. So if I'm looking at players that I want to maybe get down on for Seattle today, Tom, it will be Dylan Moore and it will be Cal Raleigh in that lineup. But I think I agree with you. There's not a lot of matchups because just like that Toronto bottom of the order, boy, that Mariners bottom of the order, get out of town. That's bad.
Oh, no offense from really either side. Like if Julio Rodriguez isn't coming through, if Moore's not getting on base, we're not getting a whole lot of offense from anyone.
No. And then, by the way, like early in the season, do you ever take those games, I call them like a leap of faith game, like this pitcher's bad, this offense is bad, they finally should wake up today? Do you find yourself doing that at times, or saying, you know what, even though the numbers don't sound right, they should break out today?
Yeah, look, this is part of the variance of baseball where you have to tell yourself one thing, like, is the pitcher going to continue to be bad, or are we going to see the batters rise to the Mendoza line, rise to whatever it might be? They're not going to bat 120 anymore. They'll eventually start batting 250, which isn't great, but it's still better than whatever it was. So I tend to lean on batters just because I think pitchers will be pulled early, at least at the beginning portion of the season.
Nothing worse than a game you looked at and saying, I knew I should have pulled the trigger on that game when they score 6 and 7 runs and guys are just skyrocketing across the board and you sat that one out. We'll see what happens more, but you know who's on deck here? It's Derek Skubal, one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball.
Here's a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Lost Pages. Let's get lucky.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They're so close that we're barely going to be getting any value on the plus side of things. I think there's a little bit of value on the Blue Jays today, but it's an awesome division. Like, I don't want to see teams running away and be up by 12 games in first place. We want to see teams constantly battling for first place.
They hit a team total. I love that. So as many times as we get bad beats, you do get the same amount of good beats typically in your direction if you wait long enough.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of thoughts.
18.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Easter egg hunts all over the place. Did you ever have a kid, you open up and maybe, mom, dad packed in a $5 or $10 bill in there, put some extra candy, a fantastic way to go. Sometimes you find some Easter eggs right here on Pro Baseball Today where you open up like, oh, 2 RBIs. Whoa, 1 home run in this hand, Tom. That's what we're doing this morning, bringing the people into the living room so they understand the handicapping techniques that we will use today, which brings us to our next equation here. It's Kansas City and it's Detroit. If we do take a look at these standings in the AL Cy Young Award winning market, that's Tarek Skubal at a plus 340 price. But Tom, we were told it might be up in flames after the first 2 starts from Skubal here. 5 innings pitched, 4 earned runs, 5 2/3, 3 earned runs, but back-to-back shutout performances. Exactly what we expect from Skubal as we lean into the game today. And Skubal opens on the mound as a -198 favorite. That's now gone. 220s, 225s across the board. A total from 6.5 that's up to 7 now. It's Waka, it's Skubal, it's the Royals, it's the Tigers. Let's get after it.
Oh, this game could not be more lopsided, at least in terms of the betting odds, the optics, the pitchers, recent form, whatever you want to call it. The Royals simply cannot find any offense. They cannot find any wins, and now they're going up against the reigning AL Cy Young winner. Like you said, a rough start to the season for Skubal. He did face the Dodgers. I can forgive that personally. He has turned things around quickly. He's awesome, right? He's going to be getting a 30% some odd strikeout rate. He's going to be limiting the hitters on base. The matchup for him is great. On the other side, Waka, this could be a rough go for him. 23.9% strikeout rate versus right-handed pitching is what the Detroit Tigers have, which is 7th highest in the league. However, they have a 115 WRC plus, which is the 9th highest. They're about league average in ISO, but the power is there. Spencer Torkelson, and that is for the Tigers, is having an awesome year. Riley Green, our guy, finally turning things around. They have the pieces in place. Skubal's the answer today. I don't love the money line just because there's so much juice. I'd rather just take him over 6.5 strikeouts. And man, the Royals need a win as much as anyone in the league.
No, they certainly do. And also, you take a look at the lineups today, right? Just the pitching matchups. We'll start with Tarek Skubal, who's second on the card out of 30 pitchers in xFIP today at 2.95. That's through 23 2/3 innings pitched. And you go all the way down to find Michael Waka, whose ERA is 4.35, but that xFIP of 5.06. And finally, so many years you would take a look at the tree and like, I can't take anybody in that lineup. They're all terrible. Look at how they present themselves here to right-handed pitching today. Torres above average, Carpenter above average, Torkelson above average, Riley Green, and even Dylan Dingler there down in the 6th hole is anticipated a 429 weighted on base percentage and an ISO of 229. So if I had to pick 4 batters out here that I like in this ball game, it would be Carpenter, Torkelson, Green, and Dingler, but also mixing in a team total. Now, granted, as Tom pointed out, it's only 55 degrees with a 10-mile-an-hour wind blowing in, which it's okay, but you can still drive the baseball in the gap, have base runners on base. So with Detroit Tigers team total today, Tom, 3.5 at -135. To get 4 runs today, I think there's a good probability we see that here.
It's also true. I'm good with that. I would also mention Zach McKinstry. He's batting in the 3 hole today. Not a big power guy, but he gets on base. Average is sitting around 300. Not that we look at average too much, but he doesn't strike out a lot. And listen, if you're using him in the 1 HRR market, he gets on base, walk, or hit, or get driven in by a Green or whoever it might be. There's 4 or 5 different options from the Tigers today.
No, there certainly is. And that's the fun market that we start to, take a look at, the hits, runs, and RBI. So many times in the past, Tom, you can draw a leadoff walk to start the game. Like, there goes one at bat for my guy to get a base hit. And then you go, oh, wait a second now. Oh, he's on second base. Oh, he just scored? Yeah, cash in on that market here to see how high you can go, which always the dream is. You get the single to start, then the run, or you get the home run, which cashes it in immediately. A lot of fun markets, certainly, to bet on at that point here. So with that game, Detroit, usually don't look towards that with that weather conditions. I actually think Detroit is sneaky today with a team total. I think they can go over that number. You know where we're not having problems going over the number typically? It's down in Tampa. Heat, humidity, small ballpark. It's perfect. Hopefully they never go back to Tropicana Field or even build another stadium that's going to be in a dome that takes away these advantages for us. 9:15, 9:16 on the rotation, a 140 start today. That is the Yankees and the Tampa Bay Rays. Max Fried, the lefty, will be on the mound here for the Yankees. Pepio, the righty, here for the Tampa Bay Rays. This line opened up as a favorite around -140 or so for the Yankees. That has now since ballooned up to 155s and even into the 160s now as a favorite. The total, which FanDuel opened up at 8.5, it's 8 across the board now. Fried, Pepio, it's Tampa, and it's New York.
Yeah, seeing the 8s or 8.5s move to 8s is actually rather interesting to me. I'm seeing it to be 90 some odd degrees. A little bit of wind blowing in, but that is irrelevant when we're seeing 89, 90 degrees. And like you said, this is Yankee Stadium. This has the exact same dimensions as Yankee Stadium for people that may have not been fully on board with the start of baseball season. The Rays not playing at home. They're outdoors at a Yankees spring training field, which has the exact same dimensions as Yankee Stadium, 314, 318 down the line. Fried is definitely the better pitcher compared to Ryan Pepio, but when we're seeing a 40% fly ball rate and a 38% hard contact rate allowed from Ryan Pepio, there's going to be offense today. There's going to be runs scored. So the fact that it moved to 8, I'm actually more encouraged on the over, and ultimately we could just get the push at 8 When it comes to Max Fried, some of the lefties may be neutralized from the Rays, whether it be a Brandon Lau, Jonathan Aranda. So I have far more interest in the Yankees offense compared to the Rays today.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that, too, because you take a look, and obviously the pitcher that Max Fried can be, a 1.88 ERA this season through 24 innings pitching, a 3.14 xFIP. Most people say, oh, they could probably keep it down. And then Pepio, who does have a high ERA at 4.91, does have a lower xFIP of 3.86. But sometimes you just look, and as Tom said, it's 89, close to 90 degrees in that ballpark. It's a small ballpark already. You could be pitching a great game, and one or two pitches get away from you, and there they are landing into the seats in left and or right field during that short porch. If I'm looking at the Yankees lineup, which is where I would go, Judge, Chisholm, and Wells for me in this lineup, and I do think can do some damage. So even though technically we're going to have a good xFIP matchup, I'm with you. I think we get runs down in Tampa today.
Absolutely. I have some props for this later as we close out the show. We'll give some of our favorite props but it's going to be going to the classic double RBI play, or I should say two RBI play, one from each player. One of them cashes. We come out net positive. I have my eyes on Wells for another segment, which we'll get to. He's back in the lineup. Chisholm not suspended just yet. He may be, but he's appealing that. Yankees should have a full lineup today.
Yeah, Aaron Judge certainly smashing baseballs this year, going to be on my card today in some form or fashion, along with a few other Yankees players in that lineup. But I do love the fact that the heat and the humidity is going to be in that ballpark today. We'll just see if we can get some of those swings. Now, we don't have a panic meter this week, Tom. I got to tell you, hey, Cody Bellinger, everybody around you is knocking around the baseball except for you. Is this a day that you might be able to wake up against a right-handed pitcher struggling a little bit with lefties? We'll find out. Come on back with us. Pro Baseball Today.
Here's a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They're so close that we're barely going to be getting any value on the plus side of things. I think there's a little bit of value on the Blue Jays today, but it's an awesome division. Like, I don't want to see teams running away and be up by 12 games in first place. We want to see teams constantly battling for first place.
They hit a team total. I love that. So as many times as we get bad beats, you do get the same amount of good beats typically in your direction if you wait long enough.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
Rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of
15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It's a glorious Easter Sunday right here on the SportsGrid Network, Sirius XM Channel 159. It's Pro Baseball Today. I'm Donnie Rightside. He's Tom Vecchio, and we still got a long day to go here, handicapping, getting you ready for the start of a Major League Baseball Sunday, which includes a lot of games and a doubleheader as well. Some a little bit extra baseball as we get cruising here. The next game we're going to talk about is the Cardinals and the Mets. That's Gray on the mound taking on Holmes, a 9:03, 9:04 on the rotation, a 1:40 start here on the East Coast, a 7.5, Tom, that is now sitting at 7s across across the board. And the side itself went from around a minus 125 price up to around a minus 140 price for the New York Mets. Looking at the Cardinals and the Mets today, what do we have?
I'm on board with the line movement in terms of what we've seen, 7.5 to 7. You know, we're dealing with two good pitchers. Obviously, Sonny Gray has been one of the better pitchers in the league. I would say maybe more underrated pitchers over the past few seasons. He's never been a massive strikeout pitcher. We saw it, last year to a good extent, but he's never been a massive strikeout pitcher. He does not walk anyone. His walk rate is down at 3.5% to start the year. He's not allowed a ton of fly balls. We know the Mets offense has been rolling. Pete Alonso's super hot, but I think this is the game that the Cardinals break a little bit of a losing streak. On the other side for Clay Holmes, it's rather interesting because a 31% strikeout rate from him is one of the highest we've ever seen from him in his career. However, this is the first year that he's transitioned back to a starter since he was a rookie with Pittsburgh in 2018. He's been a reliever since then with Pittsburgh and with the Yankees. His xFIP numbers are good. His strikeout rate is good. The walks are an issue at 12.4%. So he's not getting deeper into the game, and we're seeing him be pulled at 5.1, 5.2. So I lean with the Cardinals. If they can keep this game close with Sonny Gray, turn it over to the bullpen, get Ryan Helsley in there, I think they come away with the win, and I think the under would hit.
Yeah, as I take a look, I do agree with the under. And again, it's low. The wind is slightly blowing in. Temperature's about 65 to 68 degrees, which isn't too bad. But when you look at the card today through those 30 pitchers that I talk about, Clay Holmes is 6th on that card in xFIP, and Sonny Gray is 7th. And also, both of these pitchers won. Clay Holmes at 19 2/3 innings pitched, and then Sonny Gray here at 23 innings pitched. So starting to get that sample size a little bit higher. Both of their ERAs are under 4. I don't love the matchups, per se, from a batting perspective from either one of these teams. So I'm in agreement. So when we take a look at those lines, 7.5 down to 7, I think that's the right move on that end of it. We'll see which batters, I should say, get some of the best of it. You just wait to get into the bullpens here today, but I do think it certainly leans towards an under as well. And I'm looking just on some of the notes that I have. It's basically a stay-away game for me if we're looking for either team, Tom, here. Even if it's hits, runs, RBI, whatever it would be, I probably won't have any action on this today because it does, again, lean towards an under for me. Next game, we'll take a look at a 2:10 start, 9:23 and 9:24 on the rotation. It's the Athletics and it's the Brewers. It Springs, the lefty, on the mound for the A's versus Henderson for the Milwaukee Brewers. This line opened up overnight as a slight favorite towards the Athletics. That's now flipped over. We're as high as a minus 135 price as a favorite towards the Brewers, and the total, which opened up at 8, Tom, still sits at 8 today.
Yeah, this is probably one of the more interesting games on the slate just because of what we get from the Athletics. Like Springs is let's just call it what it is. He's a pretty average pitcher, but Logan Henderson is making his MLB debut. And looking at some of his minor league numbers, he can strike out hitters really quickly. However, that is a small sample size. Looking back at last year, seeing a 40% strikeout rate across the minor leagues at A, AA, AAA, wherever it might be. He has strikeouts in him. Now, the Athletics, as we've talked about, they're a fun lineup. Soderstrom, Jacob Wilson, they're off to a great start on top of Rooker and Butler at the top of the lineup. Like, they have power in the lineup, but they also have some swings and misses. So Logan Henderson is a bit of an unknown. If I side with anything, I may just take a shot on the Brewers' money line because I'll be willing to trust them in their offense coming through against what may be an equally bad or unproven pitcher in Springs. I would take the strikeouts with Henderson, essentially.
Yeah, it's always tough when you make that major league debut because there's guys that have pitched well in minor league baseball. There's guys that are like 34 years old and you don't want to burn like a young arm to start their clock in the major leagues. So they give you a spot start and you can sort of pounce on those. So I always am apprehensive either way, but sometimes there's some numbers you can look into and really dig in. But I got to tell you this. We don't worry about any weather conditions in Milwaukee, like 50 degrees and 12 miles an hour. It's a dome, so the dome's probably going to be closed today. But here's one of those games I look at where Springs is a lefty, struggling at times with right-handed batters this year, and he's 19th on the card today with a 4.49 xFIP matched up with a 4.50 ERA. Jackson Churio, right-handed batter, raking against left-handed pitching this year, 353 ISO and a weighted on-base percentage of 425. Everybody else in that lineup is struggling. So, Tom, leap of faith game on the Brewers today? We hitting or what?
Yeah, it's a Chirino game. I mean, he didn't have a hit yesterday. He bounces back. I think whether they put up 10 runs, I don't think that's going to happen. But I think Chirino has a good game, multiple bases, probably add in a run or an RBI.
Yeah, interesting one for me, again, from the notes. I think they can get the Springs. Don't love that lineup. And Henderson, again, making his Major League Baseball debut. It's always a tough handicap here. But it's not tough. 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. You want to talk runs, you came to Wrigley. We'll be right back.